Elara leaned in, unwilling to let the moment slip away. She had been patient long enough. "That's not true," she said, quiet but firm. "You're part of this place, aren't you? Like Darian, like me. There's something connecting all of us here." Orin's lips pressed into a thin line, his gaze drifting upwards to the glass ceiling. The stars above twinkled, casting an ethereal glow across his weathered features. For the first time, Elara noticed how tired he looked, like someone who had seen too much, carried too much. "You ask a lot of questions," he said in a gentle tone, his eyes still on the sky. But this place wasn't made for answers. Elara's frustration bubbled. The pub's quiet mystery tested her patience. "Then what is it made for, Orin? Why am I here? Why is anyone here?" Her voice wavered with emotion. "I came here for a reason. I feel it. I know it. And so do you." For a moment, there was only silence. The tavern's lanterns hummed, and the city below murmured. Orin lowered his gaze, his eyes meeting hers with a depth that made her breath catch. "You came here because you're lost," Orin said, his voice whispering. Speaking the truth might shatter something delicate. Everyone who finds their way to the Sky Lantern is. You're searching for something, whether it's answers about your father or something else. This place draws those who need clarity. But clarity doesn't always emerge without struggle. Elara felt her chest tighten, the weight of his words sinking in. She hadn't wanted to admit it, not even to herself, but she had felt lost long before she stepped into the pub. Her father's disappearance had left a hole in her life, one she hadn't been able to fill, no matter how hard she tried. "And you?" she asked, her voice softening. "Are you lost too?" Orin didn't answer right away. He turned back to the counter. He picked up the glass he had been cleaning earlier and resumed his methodical motion. For a long moment, Elara thought he might not respond at all. Then, finally, he spoke. "I've been here for a long time," he said, his voice carrying the weight of years unspoken. "Too long. The Sky Lantern doesn't just find the lost. It holds them, tethered until they find what they seek. Or until they stop looking." Elara's brow furrowed. "So you're stuck here? Is that what you're saying?" Orin's eyes darkened, his face unreadable. "I'm saying that some places aren't meant to be left. And some people aren't meant to leave." Before Elara could press him further, the door to the pub creaked open again. This time, it wasn't Darian who entered, but a stranger. She had an otherworldly presence that lingered in the pub. She was tall, with long black hair that cascaded over her shoulders like a river of ink. Her dark eyes swept the room before locking onto Orin, and for a moment, the air was still. She carried herself with a sharp, knowing air. It was as if she knew every corner of this place. Orin straightened, a hardened expression crossing his face. "Sable," he said, his voice cool and measured. The woman Sable smiled, though there was no warmth to it. "Orin. It's been a while." Elara sat in stunned silence, the weight of Orin's words pressing down on her. The Sky Lantern pub wasn't just a place, it was a crossing between worlds. She had sensed something unusual about this place. To hear it confirmed felt surreal. For a moment, she couldn't speak. She was still trying to wrap her head around the strange tension between Orin, Darian, and now Sable. All three of them were connected to this place, and somehow, she did too. "I'm standing on the edge of something far bigger than I realized," she echoed, more to herself than to Orin. The realization hit her like a tidal wave. What does that even mean? Orin's gaze softened. He set the glass down with caution. Their talk needed the same care. "It means that you have a choice, Elara. You can leave now, pretend this place is a strange dream, a moment of confusion. Or you can stay and step deeper into the mystery." Elara's mind raced. Every instinct told her to leave, to run back to the safety of the world she knew. But she couldn't. The thought of her father and the answers that had eluded her for so long kept pulling her back. Something inside her refused to walk away. "I'm not leaving," she said, her voice stronger than she had expected. "I need to know the truth." Orin nodded as if he had expected her response. "Then you should know," he said, his voice grave, that the path ahead isn't easy. The sky lantern reveals things about people's pasts, fears, and desires. Things they may not want to confront. Elara swallowed hard. I've already faced enough in my life. Whatever this place wants to show me, it can't be worse than losing my father. Orin looked at her for a long moment. His eyes held a feeling she couldn't quite place. Perhaps it was pity or respect. I hope you're right. Before she could ask what he meant, the door to the pub creaked open once more. Elara turned to see another stranger enter. This one felt different from Darian or Sable. This newcomer had an air of quiet intensity about him, his presence filling the room like a sudden gust of wind. He was tall, with short cropped hair and a sharp, chiseled jawline. His eyes, however, were what struck her the most. They were dark and haunted, as though he had seen too much of the world and carried its weight with him. Orin tensed at the sight of the man, though he tried to hide it. Reid, he said, the word carrying a strange mix of familiarity and caution. Reid nodded in greeting, his gaze sweeping across the room before landing on Elara. There was a spark of recognition in his eyes, though they had never met. It was unsettling, the way he seemed to know her without knowing her. You're Elara, he said, as if it were a fact he had always known. She blinked, taken aback. How do you know my name? Reid didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved to the bar and sat in the seat Darian had vacated earlier. He leaned back, his posture relaxed, but there was an edge to him that made Elara wary. I've heard about you, he said finally, his voice low and calm. From Orin, from others. People like you don't come here by accident. Elara glanced at Orin, who remained silent. His expression was unreadable. What is that supposed to mean? She asked, her frustration bubbling to the surface. Everyone keeps talking in riddles. Why am I here? What's so special about this place? Reid chuckled, though there was no humor in it. This place draws people who are lost, who are searching. It's a crossroads, a place where the lines between worlds blur. You came here because you're looking for something. Whether you realize it or not. She asked, her tone sharper than she intended. What are you looking for? Reid's smile faded, and his eyes darkened. Redemption. The word hung in the air like a dark cloud. Elara wasn't sure how to respond. There was a heaviness to Reid, a sense of guilt or regret that he carried with him like a shadow. And do you think you'll find it here? She asked in a faint voice. Reid looked down at his hands, his jaw clenched. I don't know. But I don't have anywhere else to go. The silence that followed was thick, charged with the weight of things unsaid. Elara felt an irresistible pull toward the pub now more than ever. It wasn't just a place for lost souls, it was a place where they came to find something they couldn't find anywhere else. But what was she supposed to find? What was her purpose here? She turned to Orin again, hoping for some kind of guidance. What now? She asked in a voice so soft that it was almost inaudible. Orin didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached beneath the bar and pulled out an old leather-bound book. It was worn and weathered, its pages yellowed with age. He set it on the counter between them, his fingers lingering on the cover for a moment before he pushed it toward her. This, he said in a soft voice, is a journal. It belonged to your father. Elara's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the book, her mind racing. My father, she whispered. How? Orin met her gaze, his eyes filled with a quiet intensity. He was here, Elara. A long time ago. With trembling hands, she reached out and touched the leather. Her fingers grazed the edges. The journal felt heavy, not just in weight, but in significance. It was a piece of her father, something she had never known existed. What's in it? She asked, her voice shaky. Orin's expression softened, answers. But not all of them. Some things you'll have to discover on your own. Elara swallowed hard and opened the book. Her father's handwriting filled the pages. The familiar loops and swirls brought a flood of memories. She scanned the first few lines, but jumbled words made the meaning just out of reach. It didn't matter. She had a piece of him now, a connection she had been searching for, even if she hadn't realized it. For the first time since entering the Sky Lantern pub, Elara felt like she had a direction. The answers she had been seeking were closer than ever. But as she looked around the dimly lit pub, she knew that the journey ahead would be anything but simple.